Hello friends, and welcome to a brand new camera comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S25 against its predecessor, the S24. Right now, we are recording at 4K at 30 frames per second. Tell me in the comment section below which one do you think has better colors and which one has a better audio.
As is tradition on our channel, let's start by looking at some samples taken with the main cameras. Before diving in, let me quickly explain the testing process. Each daylight photo was taken in auto mode, with only the scene optimizer enabled, and no edits were made afterward. Since both devices come from the same company, they share a similar processing style, but there are noticeable differences. Let me break them down. The new Galaxy S25 generally captures photos with more accurate color tones, whereas the S24 leans towards boosted saturation and vibrant colors. In this particular sample, I prefer how the building appears on the older model, but the sky looks significantly better on the newer one. The S25's improvements are most apparent when there are people in the frame. For example, in this case, my face, hair, and even my coat are better highlighted on the S25. The S24, on the other hand, made my face look too warm and my coat appear too dark. During my testing, I noticed that the S24 is almost always brighter, while the S25 typically produces slightly darker images. That said, both deliver excellent results with plenty of detail and impressive dynamic range. There were also instances where I actually preferred the S24, such as in this sample where its image is brighter, and the shadow areas are better highlighted. I was genuinely surprised to see the S25 performing worse than its predecessor in certain scenarios, particularly when it came to greenery. Both phones are equipped with ultra-wide cameras, and unlike their main cameras, I believe the S25 now has a slight edge. While both handle greenery exceptionally well, the new model does a better job representing buildings and the sky more accurately. The S25 tends to produce less saturated photos, while its predecessor takes a different approach by boosting colors. Ultimately, it comes down to personal preference. In this particular sample, I prefer the more vibrant photo from the S24. The building looks better on the older model, even though the sky and grass are slightly improved on the S25. The next scene, however, we have completely different results. As you can see, the S25 performs significantly better than its predecessor. On the older S24, my face is barely visible, and my coat appears plain black with no details. In contrast, the S25 preserves my face much better and brings out some of the finer details in my clothes. Both devices capture excellent photos at 2x, with the S25 showing a slight edge in terms of color accuracy and dynamic range. The S24 struggles a little with bright backgrounds, but its images remain perfectly usable. At 3x, where they switch to their telephoto sensors, the difference becomes more noticeable in favor of the S25. In the left photo, my skin tone appears more accurate, while in the right image, my face looks slightly overexposed. I appreciate the improvements made with the Galaxy S25. In another sample, both devices deliver nearly identical results, but to my eyes, the S24 seems just a bit sharper. At 3x using their telephoto cameras, both phones lose some of the vibrant colors seen in their main lenses, with the older S24 experiencing a more significant drop. The S25 performs slightly better, particularly around the red blocks, where its photo appears sharper and more detailed compared to the S24. When capturing portraits with their main cameras, both devices perform exceptionally well. However, as with many of the samples, there are a few differences worth highlighting. My coat has been a recurring example, and even in this sample, the difference in detail is quite noticeable, with the S25 delivering significantly better results. My skin tone is also more accurate on the S25, not just at 1x, but at 3x as well. This year, Samsung has made remarkable progress in this area, with skin tones now being almost consistently accurate compared to previous generations. That said, the S24 still does an impressive job with portraits. If I didn't have the S25 for comparison, I would be more than satisfied with its results, despite a few minor imperfections. The new device, however, builds on its predecessor's strengths, and I'm all for these improvements. The same story continues with their front cameras. The S25 captures a representation of me that is much closer to how I look in real life, while the older S24 isn't quite as accurate. In terms of detail, both devices preserve my facial features exceptionally well. The difference becomes a bit more noticeable in this next sample. The S25 does a better job with my face, while the S24 performs slightly better with my hair. At the end of the day, both pictures are impressive, and you really can't go wrong with either one. When recording with their main cameras, I noticed that both devices are virtually identical in terms of color accuracy, stabilization, and dynamic range. The Galaxy S24 does brighten some of the darker areas just a touch more, but aside from that, I didn't spot any other noticeable differences. The same trend continues with their ultra-wide cameras. In fact, after careful comparison, I found no differences at all between the two. I had expected the S25 to perform slightly better in this area, but honestly, it's not a major issue, as the S24 already shines in this category and provides excellent results. At 3x, however, a subtle difference becomes apparent in the color tone. The S25 produces warmer colors, while the S24 introduces a slight greenish tint. Though it's not overly noticeable, it's still a difference worth mentioning. In this particular sample, I prefer the Galaxy S25, as the warmer tones make the image feel more visually pleasing. Moving on to low light, and from this point forward, every picture is taken with night mode enabled and set to auto seconds. Just like in daylight, the S25 continues to do a better job with my skin tone, while the S24 introduces a yellow tint that doesn't reflect how I actually look. In areas where light sources are scarce, the S25 performs significantly better than the S24, as shown in this sample. To be fair, even the photo taken with the new phone isn't perfect, but it's a clear improvement over the blurry image captured by the older model. I noticed similar results in many cases, so it's great to see these advancements. When it comes to their main cameras, the S25 retains more details, and the overall picture looks more refined. On the Galaxy S24, my face appears overexposed, and the image looks somewhat soft. In another sample, though, the results were nearly identical, with both phones capturing photos that feature plenty of detail, excellent colors, and great dynamic range. In this particular instance, I can't pick a clear winner. I did notice that the S25 performs better when there are plenty of light sources in the frame, as seen here. Whether it's the new chip or One UI 7, the lighting in these photos appears more pleasing to the eye. That's not to say the S24 performs poorly, it's just that the S25 has the upper hand. The S25 also handles reflections more effectively, as shown in this example. On the S24, the streetlights appear more pronounced, whereas they are more subdued and balanced on its successor. In this case, I definitely prefer the photo taken with the Galaxy S25. When taking photos with their ultra-wide cameras, both phones experience a noticeable drop in quality. To my eyes, the S25 produces slightly brighter images, but the difference is minimal. These photos lack the detail found in those taken with their main cameras, which is expected, as neither device uses Samsung's top-tier ultra-wide sensor. In this particular sample, the S25 excelled with its main camera, but this time I prefer how the S24 handles the scene. This just goes to show that there isn't a clear winner in every situation. For the most part, however, I would say they are very similar. While there are minor differences, their overall processing styles remain consistent with what we've come to expect from Samsung. When there are people in the frame, I find that the S25 tends to over-sharpen the image, making it look less natural. Fortunately, this is something that could be addressed with a future software update. At 2x, the S25 continues to produce sharper images, while the S24 delivers smoother photos where some facial details are lost. The newer device, on the other hand, increases sharpness and enhances facial details more effectively. This difference becomes even more noticeable at 3x. My face and hair appear much sharper on the S25, whereas they look softer on the S24. Ideally, the perfect image would strike a balance between the two, so neither phone is flawless in this regard. The S25 also captures more detail even when there are no people in the frame. That said, I personally preferred the overall look of the picture taken with the older S24 in some cases. At 3x, however, the images from both phones appear quite similar, with only minor differences. While the 3x telephoto camera was the weakest point of the S24, it seems to remain the case with the S25. Still, it's worth noting that having a dedicated telephoto sensor is a plus, especially since many phones in this price range don't include a zoom camera at all. When it comes to portraits in well-lit conditions, both phones deliver excellent results. In this sample, my face appears slightly more accurate on the S25, while the S24 handles the background lights better. Overall, though, both pictures are impressive. In the next sample, where light sources were limited, both devices showed a drop in quality. Even so, the S25 managed to produce a picture I'd consider perfectly usable, whereas the image from the S24 falls short. My face and hair lack detail in the S24's photo, and the color tone appears noticeably off. So, what do you think? While the S25 does have some improvements, they are quite small, and there were even instances where the older S24 actually performed better. I don't think the camera alone is worth the upgrade. If you did enjoy this video, then please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.